Okay, page 856. Now this is one of the most more unusual parshas in the Torah. Page 856. Parshas Balak is one of the more unusual parshas in the Torah because we're going to get all sorts of, there are several points here. First of all, if you know anything about the background, we're going to be talking about witchcraft, sorcery, curses, all sorts of concepts that are foreign to us because nowadays, we don't have what's called authentic or supernatural witchcraft nowadays, even though there are commentaries that say it still exists. That it once existed, everybody agrees. That whether the discipline went lost or not, there are those that say that there are parts of the world there are funny things that happen. But the first thing is that the idea of witchcraft, which the Torah does, the Torah itself talks about in Parshas Mishpatim, the Torah says that a witch has to be executed. It's a capital offense. Witchcraft is a capital offense. So the most basic definition of witchcraft, if we're already going to practice witchcraft, let's know what we're doing. The most basic definition of witchcraft is, according to the Sefer HaChinuch, witchcraft is the ability to tap in to the heavenly forces and cross over various energies to bring about an effect in the physical world. Now, there's a statement of the Gemara says every blade of grass has a ministering angel that tells it to grow. And what that means is that what that really means is not like there's a mouth, you got an angel standing there over it going, grow, grow, grow. It's like the fans yelling, go, go, go. That's not what it means. What it means is that everything in the physical world has a spiritual counterpart. So witchcraft is the ability somehow to be able to tap into those forces and manipulate those forces in such a way that it brings about an effect in the physical world. That's what the Sefer HaChinuch says. More than that, I can't tell you because I'm sworn to secrecy. I can't tell you because I don't know. I'm just telling you, I'm quoting the book. I don't know. I've never practiced sorcery. If I could, there are certain people I would make disappear, but I can't. So that's the first thing. There is a concept called witchcraft, sorcery, that sort of black magic, that sort of thing. Forces of evil, the occult, spirituality. There are ideas like that, number one. Number two, what's going to be very unique about this Parsha and very unusual about this Parsha is that you're going to talk about conversations and a certain relationship between two non-Jews, Balaam and Balak. Balak is the king in Balaam, we'll see in a second. And they go through this whole rigmarole, and no one was around to see it, except them. Yet it appears in the Torah. The Torah tells us what they were doing. Everything up until now is Hashem said to Moshe, and the Jewish people saw, and they built the Mishkan, and Avram Avinu, and Yitzchak Avinu, it's people that we saw and passed it down from one generation to another generation, 856. From one generation to another generation. All of a sudden the Torah is telling us something that was going on so far away. The Torah tells us what was going on between Balaam and Balak who wanted to destroy the Jewish people. And this is very unusual because you don't find this anywhere else in the Torah. And all of a sudden we're told what's happening over there. Then eventually Hashem tells Moshe this was going on, and Moshe writes it down in the Torah. But at the time that it was happening, the Jewish people were there. They're minding their own business in the desert, and there's plotting going on over there. And of course, the lesson here is, and there's a lesson, that itself is a lesson. Right there's a lesson. What's the lesson? What's the lesson? The lesson is that there are a lot of stuff that our enemies are doing, which we never even find out about. There was a lot of plotting that was going on that we don't even find out about because the plots didn't succeed. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu was manipulating things behind the scenes. We don't even know what was happening. We don't even know how. I had a guy once who told me he was in Michigan, and he was hitchhiking in Michigan, and he was a car stopped. Two guys stopped him. He gets in the back of the car, and they start driving. And as they start driving, the two guys look kind of suspicious looking, and he's driving along with them. They on the off ramp. A state trooper cuts them off in front, and state trooper cuts them off in back. They get out with drawn shotguns. Get out of the car. Put your hands on the roof of the car. What happened? These were two guys who had just escaped from Jackson State Penitentiary. They had hijacked the car, picked this guy up. They weren't the Chesed committee. So goodness knows what would have happened to him. So, we don't even know. Person doesn't even know. We don't even know what, in the day-to-day, sometimes you find out that after you got off the train, the stop before, they had just wrenched an Arab off the train because he was plotting something no good. You don't even know about it. We're unaware of how close we were to being in trouble. That's what the Torah is telling you over here. You got Balak and Balaam, and they're plotting, and behind the scenes, they got all these ideas what they're going to do to the Jewish people, and at no point do we even find out what's happening. Later, we're told, oh, by the way, you know how close you guys came pretty close to getting cursed and destroyed. Oh, wow, I didn't even know that. We just went about our business every day without even being aware. That's the message. That's the lesson of the Torah here. So take a look at the beginning of the pasuk. Vayar Balak ben Tzipor es kol asher asa Yisrael le'amori. Balak saw everything that the Jewish people did to the Amorites. Remember the last two episodes where they wiped out Sichon, King Sichon, page 856. They wiped out King Sichon, and then they killed Og. Yesterday we spoke about this giant Og. And so Sichon and Og were supposed to be the final block on the Jewish people entering the land of Israel. The other kings had hired them to protect them, and now they destroyed these two kings. They took care of them like nothing. So now Balak is nervous because he saw what the Jewish people had done to these Amori kings. Vayagar Moav mipnei ha'am me'od. Moab is very nervous. The people of Moab are very nervous because of the nation. Ki Ravhu. Now, normally Rav means they are abundant. Vayakatz Moab mipnei Yisrael. They were. How does the article translate? They were disgusted in the face of the Bnei Israel. So you'll notice what it doesn't call the Jewish people over here. It calls them a nation. And then it says that they're Bnei Israel. So that's who they're afraid of. Now, the there's something I forgot. 1 second. Oh yeah, the Torah it's repetitive over here. It says, Vayagar Moav mipnei ha'am me'od. They're afraid of the nation. Ki Ravhu. Vayakatz Moav mipnei b'nei Yisrael. And they're afraid of the Bnei Yisrael. Why the first it calls them the nation and it calls them the Bnei Yisrael? Why does it repeat that? In both cases, it should either say the Bnei Yisrael or it should just say the nation. Why does it change? It changes from nation. It changes from nation to Bnei Yisrael, and it's almost repetitive. What's the Torah emphasizing here? So there are two ways of looking at the Jewish people. You could look at us compared to others. How are we doing compared to other nations? How are we doing compared to the rest of the world? How much crime is there in Bnei Brak? How much violent crime is there in Bnei Brak or Kiryat Sefer or Lakewood? How much violent crime is there in Frum enclaves? How much crime is there? Oh, once in a while, somebody skips out on Shachris, and once in a while, somebody borrows somebody else's tefillin without permission. But violent crime is almost unheard of. So if you compare us, once in a while something happens, and the secular get excited. They caught a religious Jew embezzling. They get all excited. They splash it all over the front pages of the newspapers here. Why is that? What's the old saying? Dog bites man is not news. Man bites dog is news. There's a famous story. The mother lion has her little lions, and one day she says to the little lions, "Okay, guys, you guys got to go out and hunt on your own. I'm done cooking and cleaning for you. I'm done, but you're on your own." They said, "Well, where can we go find food? Anywhere you want. Lions are the king of the jungle. We're king of the forest. King of everything. Anywhere you want. Everybody's scared of you." Okay, so these two lions go scampering off, and they go to the nearest city. And as they get to the city, they see a giant billboard, and on this billboard is a big billboard with a big picture of Samson ripping a lion apart. So they hit the brakes and they come running home and say, "Hey, Mom, whoa. Where we went, the first thing we see is a billboard with Samson killing a lion. You told us we could go anywhere we want." She says, "I wasn't lying." She says, "What? Did anybody get that? Nobody? Nobody picked that up?" She says, "I wasn't lying. Lying. She said, I wasn't lying. You know why they put that up on the billboard? Because it's an exception, not the rule. If it was a rule, they wouldn't be. If it happened every day, they wouldn't be putting it up on the billboard. They didn't put up a lion eating a human being, because that happens all the time. They specifically, that proves what I'm telling you. That the fact that they even made an issue out of it, that proves what I'm telling you. So years ago in Israel, there was, what do you call it? There were bus stops that were being vandalized in Israel. And they were Haredi Jews that were vandalizing bus stops because there were inappropriate advertisements on them. Vandalizing bus stops. First of all, it turned out it wasn't Haredi Jews. It wasn't from Jews. It was guys who were framing them, guys who were dressed up as Haredis, doing it so the Haredis would look bad. That's what they found out afterwards. But even let's say it was some Chassidish guy who had a little bit too much schnapps at the what do you call it, at the tish, and he went out and he started. Let's say it was. Do you know that made front page news in England? Made front page news on the newspapers in England that there's a religious Jew in Israel who's vandalizing bus stops. I mean, can you imagine if this was in New York, somebody vandalized a bus stop? They'd give him the key to the city if that's what all he's doing. Can you imagine? Why are you making an issue out of it? The answer is because are we perfect? We're not perfect. That's one of the biggest mistakes, by the way, that people from outside the Torah world, one of the biggest misconceptions, they think that we think we're perfect. They think that we think that we're infallible and we're perfect. And anything we're not, and anything we're not, we're human. We never, but if we compare ourselves to others, we're doing pretty well. If you compare ourselves to other groups, we're doing pretty well. And therefore, the first thing they look at is they look at the nation. Vayagar Moav mipnei ha'am. What is it that's really bothering them? What they're bothered by is the jealousy of the supremacy of the Jewish people. They're jealous of the excellence of the Jewish people. So the first thing is they look at the nation compared to ourselves, and compared to us, there should be seats. Take a seat, that makes you so comfortable. There should be, what do you call it? They're compared to us, they're better than us compared to us, and as B'nai Yisrael, they're excellent compared, as the B'nai Yisrael. As the B'nai Yisrael themselves, they're excellent. And therefore, in underlying the whole thing is jealousy, and we're going to see just plain good old anti-Semitism. Okay, so we'll see. Vayomer Moav al Midyan, Ata yelachachu hakol es kol sivosenu. They're going to lick up this kahal, this congregation, is going to lick up the entire surroundings. Kilcho chashor es yerek hasadeh, like an axe that goes and he licks up all the vegetation in the field. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? Balak ben Tzipor melech l'moav b'yisei. Balak was the king. Torah repeats that he was the king at that time. They had appointed him as a king then in order to try to fend off the Jewish people. So, I just saw a funny, there's an article in the Jerusalem Post. One of the anti-Semites, one of the anti-Semites, he said, there's a Jewish conspiracy in the world. I mean, this is not a new claim. He said, there's a Jewish conspiracy. What's his name? Trump's daughter is Jewish, and what's his name? Biden's Biden's vice president is married to a Jew, and what's his name? Hillary Clinton's daughter is married to a Jew, and somebody else is Jewish, and the guy in South America wants to be Jewish. The Jewish. This guy is anti-Semitic. So what's with the Jews? They're telling you the Jews are running the world over here. Everybody what does everybody love the Jews for? Everybody loves the Jews. They once did a survey. They showed a video here in Ohr Somayach. They did a survey. How many Jews are there in the world? They stopped people on the streets of Toronto, by the way. It was on the streets of Toronto. They stopped non-Jews, and they said to them, how many Jews are there in the world? So one guy goes, 20 million. Other guy goes, one guy goes, 500 million. 500 million Jews. Bigger than the United States population. Right? 500. Why? Why does he think there are 500? I understand it. Why does he think? Well, his doctor is Jewish. His lawyer is Jewish. The guy suing him is certainly Jewish. Right? The owner of the ball club is Jewish. The commissioner of the league is Jewish. The commissioner of the NBA is Jewish. His daughter is probably dating a Jew. The owner of the department store is Jewish. So everywhere he looks, there are Jews. Everybody around, everyone in the world is Jewish. Right? Everybody, he's a truck driver, but the guy who owns the company is certainly Jewish. Right? So everybody's Jewish. The agent is Jewish. None of the athletes are Jewish, only the agent. He's sitting in the maze, the guy making twice as much as everybody else. So there's this perception that there's this Jewish conspiracy. That's why they call them Hakahal. They're called Hakahal. The congregation. The congregation is the entire congregation. And they're going to lick up the fields like an ox. Now, what that means is that the strength of the Jewish people. Where's the strength of the Jewish people? Where's our power? Where's the real power of the Jewish people? The mouth. The mouth. The mouth is the koach of the Jewish people. Prayer, Torah study. Jews are talkers. Right? We could talk a good. If he would have said one more word, I would have. If he would have said one, right? We talk about what we would have done if he would have said one more word. We always make sure that he doesn't say that one more word. We're down the block before that last one more word comes out. But Jews are great talkers. Right? Jews argue all the time. But our strength is in our mouth, the mouth of tefillah. What does he mean? The ox is going to lick up the field. The ox licks up the field. If an ox licks it up with his tongue. If the ox uses his tongue, licks it up, so then the grass. Up here, Rashi says the grass is it's ruined. There's no more bracha in the growth. So they're worried about it. But at the end of the day, what's really bothering them is the jealousy of the Jewish people. They see what we are. Didn't Hitler say that the Jews are the conscience of mankind? That bugs them. That bothers them. Why are you? Don't be a bunch of goody goodies. As long as you're around, I feel guilty about behaving the way I'm behaving, and therefore I got to get rid of you. You just think you're just oh so good, which we are, by the way. We are good. And by the way, every one of you last Shabbos, what did you do Friday night? Made Kiddush, right? What happened? What did you say at Kiddush? Or if you didn't say it, you were there listening, and you gave your tacit approval to what was being said, which was what? Somebody picked up a cup of wine and said shamelessly, Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, who chose us from all the nations. Did you object? Did you raise an objection? If you didn't raise an objection, then you are in agreement with him. Then you are no less of call it a racist, a supremacist, or whatever you want, than the guy making the declaration. Because you should have objected. If you claim you didn't object because you didn't understand the words, that's even worse. Where people may talk about, maybe they're talking about you. If you didn't understand what you're saying, you should have interrupted and say, excuse me, what did you say? And then you were at Havdalah. What did it say? What did we say at Havdalah? Every week we say it. Hamavdil bein kodesh l'chol, between holy and unholy, bein Yisrael ami, between the Jewish people and the other nations. Right? And then we do like this. Right? Now, well, what do you call it? Yeah, and you didn't object? Then you agree. If you didn't object, then you agree. Then you're as guilty as I am. I said it, you answered amen. So you're as bad as I am. Okay? Therefore, we agree. That's what the Torah is telling you, and that's what they're jealous of, because they see what we are. They see what the Jews are. It is unthinkable. It's almost unthinkable for even Jewish kids. Even Jewish kids, they play. As soon as a kid starts hitting, as soon as a Jewish kid hits another kid, the Torah itself says, this we heard in day school, one of the earliest things, Moshe Rabbeinu says to Dasan and Avira fighting, he says, Russia, lama sake re'echa, you're a Russia for picking up your fist. You're a Russia for picking up your, so if a kid's smart, he says, well, listen, I may as well be all Russia. If I'm already a Russia, I may as well get some job satisfaction and slug him, if the kid was smart. But you're already a Russia for picking up your fist. You hit? It's like you hit? I mean, if it was an Italian, you'd say, you didn't hit? Right? And here you hit. That's what they see what we are. They see exactly what we are. And therefore, the jealousy is true. There's a fear and there's a jealousy. What are you jealous of? The prayer of the Jewish people. So what does he do? He understands that he's going to have to do something. I can't fight them by force. It's not going to work. So what are we going to have to do? We're going to have to get what's that special? Shmona Alpine. What's it called? Shmonat Alfim Matayim. What's it called? Shmona Matayim. We're going to have to get the cyber fighters over here. We can't fight them. Can't fight them with missiles and bombs. We're going to have to get the cyber fighters. The ancient worlds were a version of cyber, which is what? Cursing. Right? We're going to have to get a curse. Now let's understand what is a bracha and what is a curse. And you see that the Torah is already from the beginning. There's a big hack over brachas, where Yaakov wants the bracha from Yitzchak, and he goes incognito and he steals the bracha from Yitzchak, and which is an interesting question, how you can steal a bracha. It's like getting something. It's like cheating on a blood test. How do you steal a bracha? So the bracha is supposed to be for him, and it's supposed to be for him. Yet you see, there's a big deal over the bracha, and Yaakov gives brachas, and Moshe gives brachas. Then there's something called a curse. Okay, so there are a couple approaches here before we even get to to what happened in the parsha. Let's understand a bracha. You go to a tzaddik to give you a bracha. What is a bracha? What does it mean to give a bracha? There are many different explanations. There are not in many different explanations, but the explanation is a bit involved. The basic idea of a bracha is that the tzaddik is saying a prayer. When he gives you a bracha, he's saying a tefillah that a potential that you actually have should be realized. So you go to a tzaddik, no gadol is going to give you a bracha to live to 1,000 or to live forever, because we don't have that potential. But that he should give a person a bracha that he should be healed, or that he should have parnasa, or that he should have a livelihood, person has that potential. So he'll give the bracha for that potential. He'll give the bracha. The bracha is a tefillah that this person should be able to avoid the various obstacles that are blocking him from achieving whatever it is he wants to achieve. But he's not going to do something ridiculous. What's a curse? A curse is where somebody activates some sort of negativity in the other person. The curse means that he has, there's an idea. You ever hear of an idea of an ayin hara? You ever heard of an ayin hara? The evil eye, the ayin hara. The ayin hara. What is an ayin hara? An ayin hara means, when do people talk about ayin hara? When we're worried about it, sometimes you ask people, how much money have you got? If a Jew, you ask a Jew, how's business? Says it's okay, that means it's doing great. If he says it's good, that means he's a billionaire, right? But nobody's going to say, yeah, I got billions. I'm doing great. But Jews are nervous about that. What is an ayin hara? What is an ayin hara? The ayin hara is basically, if a person has been blessed with something, who do you think about ourselves? Now, I say you, I mean me. When somebody has something good, and you feel a certain amount of maybe resentment, what's triggering it? What usually triggers it?
I don't have it.
I don't have it triggers a certain jealousy. But for certain people I'm jealous of, I don't mind if he has it. I was like the other people that it's not jealousy. I'm not happy about him having it. When do you feel that way? When does a person feel that way? When somebody is flaunting it. When somebody flaunts it, so that these guys walk around with bling or what's it called, ice or whatever. I don't know what's it called nowadays. Ice, bling. What do you call it? Huh? Cheese.
No one calls it cheese.
No one calls it.
Let's say there's another word. They put it on their teeth now, and they grills. Yeah, a grill. A guy got a grill, and he's got bling, bling, and he's got ice, and he's got. And like, what are you putting in my face for? Then you're a guy. Your friend down the block made a good investment. Next thing you know, he's driving around a Lamborghini. Yeah. Listen, I got a Kolel Ford from 17 years ago, a Kolel car, which is missing a window, and this guy's driving around. This guy's, it's got plastic on the window. This guy's driving around with a Lamborghini. Then you start resenting it. What ayin hara does, the way ayin hara works, is that if somebody is doing well, and somebody else is resentful, I'm resentful of people who are flaunting it. And what happens is, because you're flaunting it, or this person is flaunting it, the file up there is revisited. His file is revisited because he's triggering off resentment. And then up there, they review the records and see, does he really deserve it? That's what an ayin hara is. An ayin hara is somebody says, I am so rich. Well, that qualifies you now to become running for president, right? That's how he talks. I am so rich. And a poor guy. Remember, he once said, I didn't start out with a lot of money. All my father left me was $1 million, and I had to make the rest on my own. Gee, bring me the violin. I was only left with the first $1 million. Okay. Good. Tugs at my heartstrings. Right? So what the Torah is telling you, if I resent something, somebody's flaunting it, so he is actually who don't we resent? Somebody who's very rich and he lives very modestly, and he doesn't flaunt it. He doesn't put it in people's faces, and he's allowed to enjoy his money, but he's not. Warren Buffett lives in the same, what do you call it, Omaha? He has a Toyota Camry. All right, there is a difference, by the way, because when you could buy the entire company, so then it's fun to to make the point of showing, see, I only buy, but he could actually buy the entire. But he is generally, he's restrained. He's restrained. He lives in a 2-story house or something. He lives in Omaha, Nebraska. I mean, that alone, that's enough to tell you. A guy lives in Omaha. Who lives in Omaha? There are no people in Omaha. It doesn't. You don't resent it. A guy walks around flaunting it. That's what an ayin hara is. So now Balak calls Balaam because he's going to want Balaam, who's a sorcerer, to try to put the evil eye on the Jewish people, which means you're going to find a flaw and focus on that flaw, which is then going to be the springboard for a curse to take out the Jewish people. That's what his plan is. That's what's going on in the Parsha. Now let's see what happens. In Pasuk Hey. So it says like this. Vayishlach malachim el Bilam ben Beor Pisora al Hanahar Eretz b'nei Amo likrola. He sends messengers, it's 5 lines to the top, to Bilam, Lamor, and says the following. Hine am yotza b'Mitzrayim, there's a nation that has left Egypt. Hine kisa es ein haaretz, he has covered the face of the earth. V'hu yoshev mimuli, he's covered the face of the earth and he's sitting opposite me. Now, the first idea, what does it mean he's covered the face of the earth? What does that sound like? What do you think that means? He's covered the face of the earth.
Taken over.
He's taken over. The Jews are taken over. They're all over the place. He hasn't literally covered the face of the earth. Everywhere you look, there are Jews. Everywhere you look, there are Jews. Jews. Everywhere you go, there are Jews. So I heard Rabbi Gifter was once on a plane, and this anti-Semite was sitting there. Rabbi Gifter was Rosh Yeshiva of the Telz Yeshiva in Cleveland. There's an anti-Semite sitting on a plane next to Rabbi Gifter, and he said to him, he takes a look at him and goes, "You're a Jew, aren't you?" He goes, "Yeah." Rabbi Gifter was a very, very strong priest. He says, "You're Jews. Everywhere I go," he said, "Where can I go where I won't see Jews?" So Rabbi Gifter said, "Well, you can go to H. You won't see any Jews over there." And that's what Rabbi Gifter said to him. And Jews. Everywhere you see is Jews. Now, that's what H. Gehenna. You can go to Gehenna. You won't see any Jews there. Right? Yeah. That's what, and he said it. He said it straight out. I don't want to say it because, the delicate among us. But the what do you call it? But that's what he said. And he's right. So here it says, he covered the face of the earth. He covered Ein Haaretz. He covers the view of the earth. So at a much deeper level, what do you think he's really saying? He said, this is what we spoke about before. The world at large, what do they live for? You see it, you do it. It looks good, you indulge. You look good, you indulge. That goes back to the original sin. What was the temptation of the serpent to Chava? When Chava comes, the serpent comes to Chava. What does he say to her? It looks good, smells good, tastes good. You indulge. You know what that serpent represents? They say it's the Yetzer Hara. You know which Yetzer Hara he is? He's the animal in man. Because a human being in the animal world, I've mentioned this before. In the animal world, if an animal sees something, it looks good, smells good, and tastes good, an animal is going to indulge. There's no restraint in the animal world. There's no choice. There's no free choice. No intelligence. It looks like if a lion sees a zebra, the lion's going to chase it down. Frankly, raw zebra doesn't do it for me. A lion looks at a zebra. It looks good. There has never been a lion in history who's chased down a zebra and stopped in the middle and said to himself, you know what, I really shouldn't do this. I'm behaving like an animal. There's never been a leopard chasing a deer and he stops and says, I don't want to do this. I'll be fleishix for 6 hours. I don't want to do that. It's never happened. Why? Only Jews do that. Only Jews do that. They're a Jew, you sit down and there's a beautiful meal for you. A steak, fried chicken, the whole thing. I don't want to become fleishix. You ever hear people say that? I don't want to become fleishix. Hey, listen, it's not a conversion. You'll get out of it. I don't want to become fleishix. You get out of it. I don't know anybody who is now Jewish, Irish, Fleischiks. There is I don't know anybody, and then why? Why don't you want to become Fleischiks? Because sometime in the afternoon I'm going to want to have a cup of coffee with this much milk in it, and therefore I will surrender an entire delicious lunch. Only we do that. Only Jews do that. When it looks good, smells good, and tastes good, you indulge. Chava is told by the serpent, what are you? Are you a two-legged animal? That's what the Yetzer Hara says. I'm a two-legged animal. I'm no different than an animal. I'm just two-legged. It looks good, smells good, tastes good, you indulge. And she's saying to the serpent, yeah, but we were given some sort of moral, ethical code that says this, for some reason we don't indulge even though it looks good, smells good, and tastes good. And the world at large, that's how they live. If it looks good, smells good, and tastes good, you indulge. That's Ein Ha'aretz. Ein Ha'aretz means what's visible, you indulge in. What do the Jewish people do? Hine kisa es Ein Ha'aretz. They cover what looks good. That means the Jewish people have a moral, ethical code. Say just because it looks good doesn't mean you could indulge. It may be non-kosher, and it may be somebody else's wife, and it may be something illegal, and it may be something inappropriate. So that's what's really bothering them. What's really bothering them is that the Jewish people are interfering with our fun. They're interfering with my being able to indulge the way I want to indulge. I want to tell you something. A frightening story. I was working on a loading dock. I was 19. I was working on a loading dock in Chicago, in a bad neighborhood, and we delivered in bad neighborhoods. So there was a loading dock. So it was we were working on this loading dock with a bunch of yeshiva guys. It was a summer job.
Like lobsters and stuff?
No, they weren't mobsters. It was a government food program we're delivering. But there was a trucking company that was sharing the same loading dock. And I was a yeshiva guy, and I thought these guys were really cool. These guys were truckers, with the mutton chop sideburns, and drinking a beer, smoking a Marlboro, and as a yeshiva guy, like, wow, these guys are really cool. And there was a little room where you could buy cigarettes and drinks and whatever. So I walked in there one night. It was an all-night job. We'd spend all night loading the trucks and deliver it in the morning. So it was an all-night job, and it was my first exposure to anything outside of the Jewish community. I was working with non-Jews, and these guys were these truckers. And I walk into this office one night. It's about 2 a.m, and these 2 truckers from the other company are sitting there. And one of them says to the other one, I'm quoting him now, because I remember it made quite an impression on me. He said, yeah, I was out with my girl last night. I had to break her old man's nose. So I looked at the guy. I was standing there. They're sitting. I said, you broke your girlfriend's father's nose? And he looks at me and goes, not her father, her husband. Because we used to call it old man was a father. And he said that. I remember thinking, I was like, my first reaction was, no, that's only in the movies. But this guy looked like he was a pretty good nose breaker. And then my next thought was that if he's willing to break that other guy's nose, my nose may not be that safe either. This guy, I don't think you have any hesitation, and I got a Jewish nose. So I decided, you know what? I think I'm going to avoid this situation. I'm going to avoid him further, and I realized, hey, this really goes on in the world. Why? Because it looks good, smells good, and tastes good, and therefore that's Ein Ha'aretz. And that's what's bothering the Jewish people. Kisa is Ein Ha'aretz. They're covering the face of the earth, meaning that the Jewish people are saying, hey, there's a layer over here, and get through the layer. You may not be allowed to open up to get there. And that's how we live. We live with a certain amount of self-control and restraint, which is almost unknown in the world today. It's almost unknown. Okay, number 1. Number 2, who is this guy Balaam? What is it? Balaam is an anomaly. Because Balaam is a guy who has some sort of belief in God. He serves God loyally. And not only that, he comes from a place called Aram. The Torah is going to say later on, he goes into his poetry. He's going to say, "May Aram." He comes from a place from Aram, where Avram Avinu came from, and Avram Avinu instilled in the people of Aram some sort of monotheism values. So he has apparently absorbed these values, and as a descendant of Avram Avinu, he may even have been spreading it. Where he veers off the path is that, this is where many of the Goyim veered off, is that on the one hand, he believes in God as the supreme ruler, but he believes that there are other deities, like the other nations, which can also be served. That's avodah zarah. The ultimate idol worship, which is forbidden for us, the original idol worshiping, was a belief in God using an intermediary, an idol, a statue as an intermediary. That's exactly what idol worship is. That's exactly what avodah zarah is. You believe in God, but you have an intermediary. Right, that you can't do. That's the golden calf. And this man Balaam apparently, that's why he's chosen as a prophet for the pagans, is apparently on a higher level of some sort. But there's a resentment. And what's the resentment? This should give us the goosebumps. You know what the resentment is? Because he knows that as a disciple of Avram Avinu, where he thinks that he's top dog, but he knows in his heart of hearts that the Jews say they are. So he's got a resentment of the Jews. We're living that today. We're living that today. Because you have the Muslims who claim that they are the true descendants of Avram Avinu, which they are. They are descended from Avram Avinu. But we're the chosen descendants of Avram Avinu. Ki bi Yitzchak v'yikarei lecha zera. Their offspring is going to come from Yitzchak, not Yishmael. And it wasn't Yishmael, contrary to other versions of the story. It wasn't Yishmael who was brought up to be sacrificed by Avram Avinu. It was Yitzchak who was brought up to be sacrificed. They don't like that. They don't like our version. And at the end of the day, there's a certain jealousy. They do have a merit, though. What's the merit? The merit is they're monotheists. Now listen, you think you daven a lot. I mean, you know, you got to. For us, there's always a davening lurking. Mincha, Ma'ariv, you know, some davening. They do it 5 times a day. And by the way, you notice that they have no compunction, no embarrassment. They'll spread the mat anywhere. Have you seen it in Israel? They're not worried about it. They don't care what people think. They'll spread the mat anywhere and bow down with, the time to say our prayers. And somehow that seems to be a merit for them. Yeah.
Is Balaam the same as Balaam's donkeys? The same?
This is the same guy, Balaam and Balaam's donkey. Not only that, Balaam is, according to some, he is either Lavan. He is, according to one opinion, he is Lavan, a reincarnation of Lavan, or a descendant of Lavan. And Lavan himself tried to wipe out the Jewish people. Therefore, you have Balaam is the what do you call? Balaam is the continuation of Lavan Arami, and therefore, what's that?
Who is Lavan?
Lavan was the one who Yaakov Avinu married his daughters.
Oh, okay.
And by the way, his name is Lavan. Lavan was the biggest swindler in history. Everybody has somebody in the Torah who you look at as, you know, your role model. Lavan was always my role model. Right? You never played Monopoly with me. You'll see. I used to play Monopoly with my brother. I was always the banker. It's good to be a banker. He didn't like that I awarded myself quarterly bonuses. Right? And that no matter what game we played, there were always accusations afterwards of financial misappropriations. Right? Otherwise known as blatant cheating, which all I could tell you is, I'm not going to say yes or no, I'm going to tell you I did a lot of winning. Right? That's all I'll tell you. So Lavan, you know what Lavan really means? Lavan, first of all, white is purity. White is beauty, purity. Right there is a swindle. The name Lavan, you know, I'm pure. That's one of the big, that tells you he's a con artist. That he's the con artist, that his name is Lavan. And I guarantee you the people around him probably saw him as being pure and holy. That's how good he was. But what Lavan really means is that when you look at a white base, when you look at a completely white base, what does that tell you? That'll tell you that all possibilities exist. You can do anything on this, put any colors on this, draw anything, all possibilities exist. That means when you close the deal with Lavan, all possibilities still exist. That's what the name Lavan means. That you agreed, you shook hands, and that's exactly what he did to Yaakov Avinu. I'll work 7 years for your daughter Rachel, and somehow he breaks the deal. That means you made a deal, you made an agreement. That's what Lavan is. Lavan means that it's all, nothing is closed, nothing is sealed. All possibilities. It's wide open. So this guy Balaam now is contacted by Balak. Okay, let's see what else we got. Yeah, okay, one more point I want to show you. You have to see this inside. This is stunning. Ve'ata lechona orali esa amazeh. It's pasuk vav. It's 8 lines from the top. Right? You have to see the words inside. 846. Take a chumash. 856. Take a chumash. Ve'ato lechana ora li esa amazeh. Curse this people. Ki otzum hu mimeni, because he is greater than I. How does the article translate a better word than greater?
Powerful.
He is too, what does he say?
It says, for it is too powerful.
Too powerful for me. Ulai uchal nakebo, perhaps I'll be able to smite him v'agarshenu mina oretz, and I'll chase him out len ki adati es asher tavarach v'varach v'asher Torah. I know that who you bless will be blessed, and whoever you curse will be cursed. So the plain meaning here is that Balak is saying the Jewish people are too powerful. Balak is the king of Moab. Who descends from Moab? Who comes from Moab, gentlemen? Ruth. And who comes from Ruth? Dovid HaMelech. So one of the Meforshim says, you know what Balak was really saying? He had some sort of prophetic, whether he knew it, whether conscious or subconscious. He said, Ki otzum hu, because the powerful one, mimeni, is going to be coming from me. Ki otzum hu, the powerful one will become, who's the powerful one? Dovid HaMelech, Mashiach, the Messianic line. And therefore, he's hoping to get a curse that can somehow retard that happening, that could somehow prevent that happening. And therefore, ki otzum hu, comment, slash, ki otzum hu, the powerful one, mimeni, he's going to be coming from me. And therefore, he wants a curse on the Jewish people. Okay, tomorrow we'll continue. We'll see the episode with the donkey. Emir Hashem.